Hey guys, Tarke here, and today I'm going to make a video talking about Iron Man or hardcore modes in video games, why I enjoy them so much in Battlebrothers, and why I no longer enjoy them in Path of Exile. So yes, it's another PoE video to talk about Battlebrothers. In the background, I've got some footage of a run I streamed earlier today. I had terrible RNG, everything was like the game actively trying to screw me over. Yet I had a lot of fun, and this is one of the more memorable runs I've had in my 100 hours now of playing this game. So, why do I enjoy games with very punishing, hardcore-esque systems? I've always been someone who's really enjoyed strategy games, and my go-to genre these days are roguelikes. I play a lot of roguelikes. When I'm not playing roguelikes, I'm playing ARPGs with pretty deep character creation, and I'm playing like CRPGs. And I nearly always roll them on the hardest difficulty, because there are some games you play for the power fantasy. An example of that would be something like Call of Duty, that you play it because you want the power fantasy. And there are other games that you play because you want to be like, ooh, strategy. I was one of those fun kids who went to chess club. Not because I particularly enjoyed chess, I think more so because my mum wanted me out of the house, and it was a couple of hours after school where she wouldn't have to deal with me. Yeah. But yeah, I was one of those kids. So anything which kind of captures that, you know, I'm really into deck builders, that whole kind of thing. So this is a game which is ridiculously punishing at its core fundamental. Like at its most basic level, it is a punishing game. And then it has a whole bunch of RNG thrown on top. And you're like, well, if you have a game which is super punishing and super difficult to start with, and then you just throw RNG on top of it, well, how can that be a fun system? Don't you always feel like you got cheated? The thing that this game does particularly well, which makes the combat encounters, even when they feel incredibly weighted against you, satisfying. And this is something that is quite interesting, because I had this exact conversation with a GGG friend of mine. And then the next day, Yoji said to me what I said to the GGG person unprompted the next day. So it's a low magic setting with very simple systems. There's loads of depth in this game, but all the systems are incredibly simple, which makes them very easy to understand. So even if you get very unlucky, like even if you go full XCOM and you miss like 3 95% hits in a row, and the enemy kills you with a 5% chance, and you're like, oh, that was screwed RNG. You never have that moment where you're like, I don't understand why I died. Like, it's very common in Path of Exile that you'll die to something, and you might just be like, I don't know what killed me. And unless you're a streamer and you have the VODs, a lot of the time you'll just be like, I don't know what happened there. Yeah, if you're on a boss fight, it might be like, well, the boss did something that killed me. But even then, it's hard to know, well, what actually killed you. Whereas in this, because of the nature of it being a turn-based game with very simple systems, you never really get surprised. And that's not to say the enemies are all straightforward. Like, all the enemies in this game have different tactics, they have different gear, there's lots of special abilities that the enemies have, but they all make sense. So how does combat work in this game? As you're seeing back and forth, I've got some NPCs who are helping me protect this caravan. I've got my 3 dudes, and we got attacked by a bunch of barbarian thralls and their dogs very early on. This is a very tough fight, by the way. So you have basically an attack stat, and you have a defense stat. There's melee attack, melee defense, ranged attack, ranged defense. And that's pretty much it. The more attack stat you have, the higher chance you have to hit. The more defense stat you have, the higher chance you have to avoid the hit. There's a couple of other systems on top of that which make it a little bit more interesting. So if you get hit in the chest and you're wearing armor, then your body armor will, eat up a portion of the hit, and then some will penetrate through to your health. Different weapons, some are better at doing health damage, some are better at doing armor damage, and the types of armor that you know your enemy will be using might dictate the kinds of weapons you choose to use and how you build your character to do certain goals. There's another system on top of this whole armor health system called Resolve. You can see these little like flags on these enemies here. You have 3 states. You've got breaking, which is signified by just this small white flag appearing. Sorry, you've got wavering, which is this small white flag. Breaking, which is this slightly raised flag, and then fleeing, which is a fully raised flag. When you get to fleeing, fully raised flag, your character will just try and run. And this happens to both friendly units and enemy units. The way that you make enemies fall through these different stages and lose resolve is by surrounding them or damaging them. Because that makes sense. Like, if you're in battle and it's just you versus one other dude, all right, I'm feeling confident. If there's only 5 dudes around you, not feeling so confident right now. And likewise, if you've just been stabbed in the neck, feeling less confident. So you have a very simple system, which in a lot of games would be like in Pokemon, okay, turn-based, here's your health, roll through it. And rather than taking the Pokemon approach of, well, to make it interesting, I'm going to add in a million different types of like fire, cold, you know, all that rubbish. They've just gone, let's just keep it really simple, and let's just make a few key systems that interact well with each other. So you have this whole armor system, you have the attack damage ranges and everything. And so even if you get RNG'd, it's always understandable and it's always approachable. And I think that makes this a very great game to learn, so that even when you lose and your whole company's wiped out and you've got to start a new campaign from scratch, you've learned something. Because it's like playing chess, right? It's chess with a slight mixing of RNG in there, so that it doesn't get too stale. So every time you play, you're learning something new, but you're never just in a, this is the machine, I always do the exact same thing against the machine. So let's compare that to something like Path of Exile. In Path of Exile, it's very often that when you die in PoE, you can either not know what killed you, or you do know what killed you, but you don't know why it killed you. So for example, you could be like, well, the enemy hit me, so I guess I died because it hit me. But you don't know, well, the enemy hit you and killed you, was it doing physical damage? Was it doing lightning damage? Was it doing 50% physical, 50% lightning damage? Was it because of a particular map mod? Would you have survived if you'd had 1 more lightning res? Like, very experienced players can look at deaths and kind of be like, okay, well, maybe I should have built more physical mitigation. Maybe with different physical mitigation, I would have won. Or if I had an extra life node, would I have then won? Because you never know how much you got overkilled by, right? It's just like, well, my health disappeared. Did my health disappear because I got hit for 7,001 damage and I had 7,000 health? Or did I get hit for 20,000 damage? And that's not something that you can test very easily in hardcore. And I feel like that's one of the big reasons why I stepped away from playing hardcore in Path of Exile. Because I played hardcore in Path of Exile for like 5 years. I made the switch in Delve, that's when I went to softcore. And I feel like it also happened when PoE shifted from being for me anyway, a character progression game to a system progression game. Because pre-Delve, there weren't really any big endgame systems. When they introduced the whole Atlas concept, that was like our big endgame system. But like before that, like, I mean, you could say, especially like before maps are even a thing, you know, there wasn't like a big endgame thing that you had to be progressing towards. It was basically you had the campaign, you got through the campaign, you ran the maps that you had access to, and then you tried to get better gear. And if you're a trader, you would try and get more currency. And you kind of just played for the sake of playing. Whereas now, for me anyway, because we have so many systems in Path of Exile, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, I enjoy quite a lot of these systems, but this is just how my playstyle has evolved and reacted to these new systems that we have, is instead of it being a case of, well, I'll just get my character through the axe and just do whatever, is I'm then like, okay, so let's get my character through the axe, and then I need to progress my Atlas, I need to progress my Conquerors, I need to progress my Maven, I need to get my Delve progress, I need to unlock my Syndicate crafts, I need to be doing my alvas, because I need to do my alvas to unlock more crafts. And I need to be collecting bits that I can upgrade and then get my double corrupts and then my gem. And you end up playing all these different systems. And then when you're playing a system-based game, then hardcore's suddenly a lot more punishing. Because while your like progress is account bound, as soon as you have like these goals, for me, this is purely for me, and some of you might be the same, but like as soon as I have a concept of there are all of these goals, I become incredibly aware of falling behind. And I play SSF, so it's not like a case of I'm worried about being behind other people in the economy in a trade league, but I kind of know that like, well, if I just stayed on one character for a week or 2 weeks, then I would have gotten all my systems unlocked. And then because so much of PoE now is, you can sometimes feel the trap of, oh, I can't have fun until I've unlocked my systems. Like, mapping isn't really POG until I've unlocked all my Maven stuff. And I've got all my watchstones. And again, I enjoy the journey, which is why I play SSF. Like, I enjoy the game without that stuff, but I do sometimes feel that trap of like, eh. And the solution to that is, well, Tarke, just play hardcore and don't die. Because if you don't die, then you don't lose your system progress because you didn't die. Easy, right? But yeah, so hopefully that very sort of rambly take kind of explains why I enjoy playing hardcore in games, why I enjoy difficult games, but why I no longer play hardcore Path of Exile. I've tried it a couple of times since I stopped playing it in Delve. Like every 3 or 4, about once a year for like one league, I will do a hardcore private league or like a hardcore SSF or something. And I sort of have fun, but like not as much as I would just have in softcore SSF. I hope my washing machine in the background wasn't too annoying. And if it feels like, Tarke, you're really shilling this Battlebrothers game, like, bruh, stop it. I just genuinely really love this game. And this is the first game there's lots of games that I've played and I've been like, oh, this is a fun game. I will enjoy playing this. But it's rare that I find a game that, for me anyway, is so perfect. Like, this is genuinely... If Path of Exile didn't exist and I had to make a channel about games, I would make a channel about Battlebrothers. This game is really cool. I cannot recommend it enough. And shout out to the one guy on my last video who said that he wasn't sure if this wasn't actually a secret, like, unofficial sponsored thing. If the devs who make this game want to pay me to be like, hey, this indie game that came out in 2015 is pretty neat, I think you should buy it. If they want a sponsor to do that, I'm down. But I do quite like the fact that we've got to a point now where the idea of a YouTuber just being like, hey, this is genuinely like really fun and it's really difficult and I suck at it, that's suspicious. But anyway, I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Let me know if you've kind of experienced your playstyle changing with that whole Path of Exile system thing, or if you feel a similar kind of way. Also let me know if you've got any other game recommendations. Have a good day. Bye-bye.